Spring has finally sprung. And you know what that means, besides the groundhog getting their things and leaving because you've been here too long for all this winter talk, sir. That means Coffee with Yvonne is on a little bit of a hiatus from mid-March until early April. But don't worry, in the meantime, enjoy these Coffee to Go episodes in which we pull from the Coffee with Yvonne archive. We have an archive, y'all, that include creatives and entrepreneurs who are changing the game in their industry or marketing magic episodes. I'll be back very soon for new episodes. I cannot wait to chat with you soon. Okay, bye! Florals for Spring. Groundbreaking. I'll tell you something, Corey. When I tell you, when I heard this album, I said, this is why I've been here since Stripper Ho. Okay? I have been down since Stripper Ho.
Say what you want. Cardi just... We waited for a very long time. You know, it was looking a little bleak. But worth the wait, mama. Worth the wait, for sure.
It was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. And
sure.
They are comparing it, Court. They're saying that this is Cardi's Lemonade. I say, you know what? It's a reach, but I could see some threads that are tying that theory together.
I think even in the reach, there's a compliment there in the sense because, like, Lemonade really did some things as far as, like, just, like, vulnerability and using that as your fuel for your artwork and everything like that. And just, like, women who are usually private, like, talking about real stuff. I mean, Cardi, I think, you know what? I'll say this. I understand the correlation they were trying to make here because Lemonade was impactful for a number of reasons for Beyonce and who she is. So I can understand them drawing that correlation. I think, though, here's what I'll say. I think first project we got from her was very much like, this is like the industry standard of like artist coming out the gate, has money behind her, has promo behind her, you know, the branding, all of the things. And it spoke to her personality and gave you an idea of like Cardi as the brand, right?
Yes.
I feel like this project definitely leans into Cardi, not just as the brand, but as the person, and, you know, digs into her roots. And you see a lot of that in the Rollout. So,
but we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, we could kiki all day long because we're two fellow marketing girlies. But for those of you who are new here, again, welcome back to Coffee with Yvonne, a show for creators and entrepreneurs. I'm Yvonne Pearson, your host, and darling, the founder of Pink Doll House Marketing. Come through, Texas.
Yeah.
Come through, LLC. Okay,
that EIN. That EIN, baby.
Fully leaned in. Today on the show, we're going to do another Marketing Magic episode, but I felt like I could not do this one alone. I needed to pull out one of my favorite marketing girlies, Coffee with Yvonne guest correspondent, friend to the show, badass marketing chick, Miss Kourtney Pope, to discuss one of my favorite creatives, and please give her flowers. She is a creative, Cardi B. And her latest album, Rollout, for Am I the Drama, that recently came out. And what we're going to do is talk about in this Marketing Magic episode, we're going to explore what creators can learn from Cardi B's Am I the Drama and how you can tie that into your actual strategies. Because let me tell you something right now. I love you, my fellow creators. Let me hold your hand while I put some tissue in between it. I love y'all dearly, but I need y'all to start doing rollouts again. And thinking strategically outside of social media to amplify your message. But we're going to get into that first. We got to do our tagline. So grab your coffee and let's chat.
Ooh, get into it. Yeah.
First of all, Court, why are we coordinating today? We are giving fall neutrals. Like, this was not discussed beforehand either.
It surely wasn't. But I love what we did with it. We're connected. We're here.
We are connected. I decided to pull out because if we're going to talk creativity, we gotta bring in.
Because I said, Beyonce, that's your world.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
yeah.
Because the blueprint for millennials herself is Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter.
Hello.
Give respect to it.
Absolutely.
Give respect. But let's start first about Cardi B. Now, Cardi B, this is her sophomore album, Court. And you know, as a creative, it's hard to follow up success on something that has been done very well. There's a lot of pressure to do it again and to do it on a higher level. With the rollout of I Am the Drama, what is the first thing, and let's start from way back when she started doing the soft launch and teasers. What is the first thing that stood out to you from like a marketing perspective?
So it was kind of what I was speaking to earlier, and I think it speaks to at large what I'm seeing from a lot of different artists is like you're hearing a lot of conversations now in this space talking about third spaces, which was really centered around like community and everything like that. And I think what I'm seeing from a lot of artists is them kind of like taking that concept and adapting that for their creativity and for their projects. So you might see that from like someone like Tyler the Creator creates these like full worlds, personas, like, you know, movements that you can get behind, or Amara Ray and the whole Black Star project and everything like that, and really leaning into that and the aesthetic and like the intricacy and the little details. And you know what? I would even say someone like Bad Bunny and his entire tour and
Yes.
everything like that. And
Oh,
so I feel like rather than Lemonade, I would say that this project is what Bad Bunny is doing with like Puerto Rico and his roots and everything like that is what Am I the Drama and Cardi is doing with like her community and leaning back into her roots with New York and just like the iconic things that make up like New York and her area and like that culture that comes with it, really leaning into that because that is her, you know, that's her stomping grounds, that's her demographic, those are her day ones. And I think that really kind of builds upon this idea of like third spaces, communities, impact for, you know, people to really like buy into because it's so much of her personality and her story just amplified to 1,000 with all the creatives and the little details and things like that and the skits that were on social media, like really just like going there and like being true to herself. I feel like the
yeah.
first project was very like Cardi the brand and like this glossy, like because she wanted to be taken serious. And now that she has that, the sophomore album feels a bit more personal.
Mm-hmm. And I really feel like, too, to agree with you, Cardi does a great job of leaning into who she is. She never
Mm-hmm.
shies away that she is a girl from the Bronx, that
Yeah.
she's a girl who got it out the mud, this and the other. She is proud of being Afro-Latina, which is something that, and not trying to be shady, some people do not realize that there is cross-cultural connections
Yeah.
between Black and Latino communities. And when you live in areas like the Bronx, you know, Brooklyn, this and the other, it is normal to meet people who are from Dominican, Puerto Rican, this and the other. Like my tío, my uncle on my aunt's side, he's Puerto Rican. You know, one of my best friends, she's Dominican. So there's a lot of pride that they've taken that. And the fact that she infused that with her music, even in the first album, I like it like that. If you remember that song she had. And then now that you see it, even now with Bodega Baddie, you know, Cardi is who Cardi is. And that's
Correct.
what I think I noticed first from the marketing. She didn't use some perfectly curated, like, you know, copy saying, get my album on this day. Cardi came on there just like Cardi is like, hey, y'all, I got an album coming out, and I only got $50 to promote it, and I gotta get this album. I gotta feed my kids. Like it was very Cardi, and I never once felt like she was selling me something, despite all the rollout she was doing. Another thing I noticed too with Cardi, though it took her 7 years, there was a lot of noise around, can she do it again? And Cardi said in multiple interviews, she's been recording for all 7 years, and it just didn't feel right. I think there's something smart in this marketing rollout. She slowed down to think about other ways of reaching her audience, but telling a cohesive story about how she got to the process of releasing this album. It just wasn't, she was sent some songs and some beats. She said, all right, let's do an album. She wanted to be thought out and
very
to speak to who
intentional.
she is right now as a woman.
Yeah. And this also is like, yes, it's been 7 years, but in that 7 year span, Cardi has still found a way that's still true to her to remain relevant, you know? And I think you're seeing that her audience has like stayed loyal and like followed her along on this journey. Correct. With the with the reaction that we're seeing from people. I mean, it really could have been if she wasn't doing the things that she had been doing leading up to this point and she just released something, after falling off. I don't think we would see the same kind of reaction that we're seeing now from that. And I think it's interesting that you kind of touched on the point of like Cardi being Cardi, because I will say this is that like I think one of the things that I've loved and admired the most about her just like brand in total is like she has still remained very much herself throughout this entire process. The same girl that people like grew to love and fall in love with from her Love and Hip Hop days, she's very much still that. She just got a little more money. You know what I'm saying? And like even like with something as with something like her trial that she has was recently on the stand and everything like that, and just even the way like she was interacting with like her lawyer and like the judge and everything like that, like she's still just a girl from the Bronx. Like,
yes.
Like at the end of the day, like tax bracket changes, but who she is to her core has very much remained the same, and carries that with her all throughout, whether that's, brand deals, whether that's brand promotions, or sitting in front of a judge.
Yep. And what I love too is when you mentioned about the girl from the Bronx, for a lot of us who come from places like, I was raised in PG County, and I say all the time, I'm a PG County girl to the fullest. Like, don't be fooled by the fact that I got my education, I surely did. I got my education. I know how to float into different spaces, but at the same time, you put on girls as I'm doing it, as what and I will get a gleam in my eye, like, is what we doing today?
yeah.
And there's a beauty in that, because I think a lot of times folks think that you do not have to stay true to that core in order to elevate, right? You can still keep that piece to yourself, but also still growing your audience at the same time. Cardi has spoken to folks who live in the hood, who live in middle class, who live in corporate, and everyone likes Cardi for who she is. Now, one of the things I want to talk about, Court, Cardi pulled this one out from her big bag, not her little one. She was selling CDs in person, doing sidewalk pop-ups, even subway skits. It was very old school tactics in a digital world. Why do you think those kind of grassroots promo still works for someone who's like on Cardi's level? Why do you think that works?
I think because there's still, money to be made when it comes to nostalgia. Everything feels very like disjointed, and algorithms are awry. People are burnt out from social media and all the sponsored posts. So there's something very like guerrilla style about that way of marketing that still works and has impact and has power, because it's disruptive. It causes you to take pause. It inclines you to, wonder what they're doing next, and, what city is she about to be in? I need to pull up, type of vibe. And it also kind of speaks to brands like, as you look at fashion, like a Telfar and everything like that, who's like going against the grain. And I think it shows like the opportunity to be, creative and be disruptive, especially with a lot of the conversations talking about just how much the music industry has changed and the way in which people are pushing projects and what are the new measurements of success. Because streaming isn't what it is anymore. And, dropping full bodies of work, really doesn't seem to be as profitable as it once was, even though there's still, there's an art behind it. And, as an artist, you want to bring to the world like this fully developed like thought. But how you market that and how you roll that out has to be different now, because the machine has changed so much. So I think the power of the nostalgia definitely played in her favor.
Yeah, and also I do think too with Cardi is, people don't give her enough credit as a marketer, in my opinion. Cardi knows how to connect with people, and Cardi also understands what moves the needle because she's so tapped in to her audience. And I do think what's missing in terms of artists now, and also some creatives, they don't fully lean into things that will make them uncomfortable. For example, Kourtney, if you told an artist that instead of doing a video for social media, they now have to go out in the street and have their stuff and sell it and talk to people, someone will like, I can't do that.
Well, I feel like sometimes artists get to a certain point where, you know, they get a little complacent. They're comfortable. They have their fan base. They paid their dues in a sense. And so certain things, certain marketing tactics for them might feel a bit beneath them. They don't see why they need to do such and such or whatever. Or I think almost in a sense, they just kind of expect sometimes their fans to just like show up, you know, like that they don't have to, like, fandom is a give and take though, you know, like I think one of the things that helps Cardi in this sense is the fact that she has always, for the most part, still in some way felt attainable in a sense. You know, just look at the way she shows up online. You feel like you're FaceTiming with just like one of your homegirls all the time, you know, and it's that rawness, it's that realness that, you know, makes you in turn want to show up for her wherever she's at, you know, type of thing. And I think it speaks to her and the importance, understanding the importance of her community, that the fact that she is able to put whatever pride aside and like really get out in the streets. And in a sense, it's also because she's smart, because there's layers to this. It's also paying homage to, like, again, that Bronx background, the hustlers that come from that background, you know, the guys that would be out there pushing CDs, DVDs, everything like that, you know, because they were hungry and they need to put food on the table. Like, she's hungry. This is her album. She needs to put food on her table. So she's like, I'm going to get it.
I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to get it. And also the cool thing about Cardi too is, like you said, she was paying homage, and that goes into the deeper storytelling. I don't think people realize how much of a story she was telling from start to finish with this rollout. And even thinking about too, Corey, the visual aspect of it, I saw connective tissue between Invasion of Privacy and Am I the Drama in the visual piece. Because if you notice in Cardi's first album, she's wearing black and white checkered, right? Like that black and white checkered outfit, and then she has these shades on that has like a spiral going into the shades. When you look at the Am I the Drama image, there's one of her in another black and white outfit, and it has like a swirl in the middle. So it almost seems like the perception I have is Cardi is almost giving us a universe in terms of her music. So the swirl connected into her glasses is now allowing us in with this album. And now we're getting a chance to see Cardi for who she is. Whereas before, with the shade, she had to protect us and keep us out. Because she was still so new to this side of the industry. That's just, you know, what I'm seeing from that.
No, 1,000%. I will agree with that. And it's also like, I love when artists kind of like continue to weave that connective thread throughout projects. You know, you see a lot of artists do it where they are maybe referencing like a verse from like their first album and their sophomore album, or there's a title of a song from their sophomore album that's now in the next track. You know, Kendrick does this a lot, and I really appreciate that, because it's just like, it's again going back to like just building this universe, something that your fans feel like they can be a part of, you know, almost like a tribe, if you will, you know. And it's like that again, like you said, that connective tissue that people can find little things, and it makes it fun again, you know, when you're kind of like going back and listening, you peep a reference, you know, type of thing. Or Beyonce, especially with like a lot of her visuals, kind of like putting your detective hat on and being, you know, drawing the dots of like, and this reference back to say my name, like, you know, like all the time. She needs to just teach a masterclass of that, and like connective tissue and Easter eggs, like, because she has it down to like an exact science. And even when you think you figured it out,
you haven't figured
there's
it
another
out.
layer just like right underneath that, so you feel like you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper in that rabbit hole,
to the point which is exactly the Lulu Hive. You in the Lulu Hive,
which is exactly where you want your community to be, because then you're like here with them. You're like, but I bet you didn't even know, bah, bah, and you're like, mind blown. mind
So,
blown.
so
That
do you think
girl,
that
like,
Cardi could
yeah,
do that though? Do you think Cardi can build almost her own version of Delulu Hive with
a thousand
this and
percent.
future projects?
1,000%. And she has the right team around her to like make it possible. And I think the thing is with Cardi, I think a piece of it that also probably drives is the fact that like there are people who don't recognize for her for the marketer that she is. So that just makes her want to get in her bag even deeper to be like, you have no idea. Just you wait. You know, I think it will only continue to like evolve from there as she continues to like push this project, talk about it more. You know, I'm very interested to see how like the media continues to like churn these things out, like her interviews, who she might speak with next. Like, I really am enjoying the side of Cardi that we're seeing because it's definitely kind of like we were saying, like, you know, kind of guarded in the first album, giving us just enough. Now I feel like she's kind of bringing us in, and so I'm really interested to see just how much more she shares.
So let's kind of switch lanes a little bit. Let's think about how future artists or even creators can lean into telling a better cultural narrative and branding. What are some suggestions in terms of what Cardi has done? What are some suggestions smaller creators can do to lean into their Cardi bag?
So, I mean, there's a lot of factors here, so it's not exactly like comparing apples to apples in this sense, because obviously Cardi has a machine pushing her. She's on a major label. You know, she has the funds to like do all of these things. But I think for smaller creators, I think it's really just about letting your creativity just like really go there. You know, like it starts with like that seed and that idea. How can we push that even further? And thinking about ways in which you can also like reach across to other like-minded small creators in a sense of like digging deeper, bringing other people up with you, and also kind of like really driving home that impact and that intentionality. You know, what are some other artists that you can collaborate with that are kind of in that same vein of the universe that you're trying to create? You know, who are some other maybe like venues that you can go at that tie back to the storytelling of the album? You know, just little, it's those little Easter egg things that just continues to like build that web and like expand your universe and kind of bring people in closer to the story that you're trying to tell. You know, I think we're also seeing this really interesting resurgence of like music videos and stuff like that, especially because of TikTok. We're seeing these like really dope clips from independent artists who are just like really going there with like storytelling, imagery, you know, impactful lyrics, and like how do you bring those things to life? How does that then tie into the rest of the world that you're building around this album? You know, and just like the imagery, it's a really interesting time to be an artist as well, because it feels like lanes are just like opening left and right for creators to dabble in genres that people wouldn't expect from them, you know, playing with sounds that people like. No one, I feel like we're kind of breaking out of this like this box, if you will. As much as there's like a lot of controversy with TikTok and everything like that, TikTok is definitely doing this big one as far as like helping me and helping other people like me to discover artists I normally probably wouldn't have been exposed to. So I would even say, as we think about content strategy, TikTok and getting your sound and putting it out there and helping it to, you know, go viral.
And, you know, to kind of take it even further, I would say like what we can learn from Cardi is be a student, right? You know, study and slow down. I think there's always this need to have to push things out so fast.
Yes.
While it took Cardi 7 years, in that 7 years, she built up who she was as an artist, doing like singles, collaborations, etc. And when she was ready to release her art, she released it. But she also got samples from Jay-Z with Imaginary Players, which is Jay-Z don't just give samples to nobody. Let's clarify that. Then she also had Janet Jackson, the Pleasure Principle sound,
which
on
is
her
like,
album.
Can we just take a moment to pause? Because like,
we can.
It's one of those things where it's like, the collab you never knew that you needed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a world in my mind where I thought she would have went there with a Janet Jackson collab. Like, Kalani made sense, Summer Walker
Mm-hmm.
made sense, but Janet, I was like, what? And
But
also
that's
shout
the
out to
thing,
Janet
though.
though, of like recognizing like the opportunity also to be like, because Janet will always be an icon, but this is also an opportunity for her to be exposed to people who maybe are younger, have probably not
Mm-hmm.
even, you have like heard a sample of her from some other artists, but don't know the originator. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Type of thing. So I really was like pleasantly surprised with that. But the collab in itself and like the way in which she's so intentional with who she collabs with too was like really smart.
And that's what I mean by like being a student, because
Mm,
Cardi chose to lean into her music history bag,
mhm,
when it
mhm.
came to her work. There's nothing wrong with paying homage to those who came before you, but
Yeah,
thinking how to make it current and where it could fit in the creativity that you're making for your, your music, your art, whatever.
yeah.
That's what I like about Cardi, because not to throw shade at other artists
However,
who,
comma, but
however, come but who have attempted to create their own version of a universe with their music, but
who
each
we talking
time,
about? Please, come on. Don't sugarcoat now. We need to give the children examples. Come on.
this is a pretty mug, isn't it?
It is.
You like the color?
Oh, yeah, it's very pink.
Yeah, I drink it on Fridays. I
Mm,
use this mug on Fridays.
mm,
Mm.
mm-hmm,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
while I have great respect for what they have done for, women in the rap industry,
Mm,
the ability to tell a cohesive story just is not there for me
mm,
personally. If we were to look at the two in terms of comparison, um, we've had multiple versions of that album, but nothing on that album makes me sit down and really lean into the
mm-hmm,
story that they're trying to tell. Now, if we were to look at people like Lauryn Hill, while Lauryn Hill gave us technically one album, she gave
mm-hmm.
us one of the strongest albums for women in that rap R&B genre we have heard
Timeless.
to this day. It's
Yeah.
timeless. Cardi, if done right, can
Mm-hmm.
be on that same track of giving us timeless creativity in this digital space if she continues on this trajectory. Whereas
Really?
in my opinion, I see the
That's a
potential.
tall. I
I
only
see the
take pause
potential for it.
because like I'm not taking anything away from Cardi at
Okay.
all. That's just a very tall order.
I see the potential though, because I've seen it from the beginning. Even before I was introduced to her on Love and Hip Hop, I
Mm,
followed her on social media, and it was the way that she was even starting to rap, like in
mm,
her early raps that she has. She has a song called Stripper Hoe that I liked. Forever, is one of my favorites. It
yeah.
then I heard the potential, and then she went on Love and Hip Hop and made it clear I'm not staying long. This is just a
Mm,
platform. This is
mm,
for my growth. And when she was doing brand collabs when Bodak Yellow came out, she was even talking about how, yeah, I studied this and saw this piece and this that, and the other. So
mm.
Cardi has always been a student. That student mindset is what's going to take her further
Okay.
outside of just the rap genre. And
I
I
feel
see her
like
leaning into that even more. That's going to solidify her in the rap space, and also an example for future women rap artists as we continue in the digital stratosphere.
I think I hear you in all of that. I think where I kind of diverge is a bit is because like you said, Lauryn Hill, even though it was like that one album was timeless, like to
Mm-hmm.
this day, like goes, no skips to this day, and I feel like that's a tall order to ask for Cardi. Now, what I will say is though, what I kind of feel like I agree with you in a sense, but just in a different direction is like, I feel like Cardi is one of those people, one of those like personalities that will be timeless in the sense of like relevancy and everything like that because of the way she steers her platform and her creative and everything like that, because of the way she steers her image and is kind of like playing in a couple of different worlds because like outside of music and everything like that, we also know that Cardi very much so loves fashion, like
She does.
you know I can see her kind of getting into that bag a bit more if she ever decides to like step away from music. Like, I think there will always be a lane in which Cardi will have some relevancy for quite a while because of just like fan base, personality, hustle, like that kind of thing. I'm interested to see how her music evolves and where she will push it because, and the only reason I'm taking pause is because of this. Like, I feel like when it comes to female rap in particular, I feel like we haven't quite cracked the code on how to expand the shelf life of a female rap artist.
Yes, that's the point I was making. That's why I feel like she could be an example for this digital space for female rappers. Because Lil' Kim, we all know Lil' Kim, but Lil' Kim got stuck in that box of what female rap is. Queen Latifah is the closest we have come to, and someone who has broken out of that space into more of the commercial area. We could have had that with Nicki Minaj. We could have had it, but it never fully connected the dots in other ways. But Cardi does have commercial appeal where she can have longevity with or without music at the same time.
But I'm not even just talking about like the commercial appeal part of it. Like, yes, Queen definitely did her big one. You know, she started breaking out into like film and everything like that. Love that for her. I'm talking about, as we talk about, hello? I'm talking about just specifically in the lane of like music. Like, there just comes a point, and unfortunately, it seems like the expiration date is like, I don't know. It almost feels like the expiration date hits like as soon as you become a mother, in a sense. Like,
yes.
And it's like kind of like, and I think that speaks to a layer of things that come with like womanhood and our identity, and like how especially like the sanctity, if you will, of motherhood and what a mother should look like and in that sense. So I'm interested to see where she goes, how her music does or doesn't progress, how her fan base does or doesn't follow her. You know, she's pregnant again, she's having another baby, you know, like that kind of thing. I'm curious because it feels like on the male artist side of it, right? You have male artists who are fathers and everything like that, and they continue multiple times over, and they continue to rap. Some of them rap about the same things, and you're 50, but like, I digress.
Future.
I digress. Who looks crazy with his hair? Girl, what's that? Is it the mayor or that governor? That lady who wears her hair the same way Future wearing it, and she wearing the blazers. You know who I'm talking about? Yeah, that's what he looked like. All that to say is that I say all that to say that there is this unfortunate expiration date on the female rap artist, and I'm like, how do we break out of that box? Could Cardi be that person to help like reshift that? Like, I don't know.
And we don't know, because Cardi, even when she was pregnant with baby Culture, it was still considered controversial that she was still rapping while she was pregnant. Yeah. And she said she got so much positive feedback from that, being on TV, being a clearly pregnant mother, and not shying away from the spotlight. Because before, women were expected to sit down, and that's it for you, like you said, in the industry. So she could follow the route like Rihanna. We know Rihanna has, how many kids Riri and Sap got?
I think this is number 3 coming from number
3. Rihanna's still working. She's still running the businesses, and people are still craving the music for R9 that she still has yet to give to her fans. So maybe she could follow the Rihanna route in the rap industry space. We don't know. Now, one of the things we need to talk about before we close out this interview, let's talk about the importance of metrics as marketers when it comes to stuff like this. Yeah. I don't think people realize, as marketers, we're not just doing things just to do it because it's fun. We're thinking about the strategy behind it, but then we want to see them numbers. We want to see the impact, because that solidifies what we did actually works. What metrics or signals, Court, if you were looking at Cardi B's entire campaign from the subway to the curb to DoorDash, what metrics would you be paying attention to determine if this rollout is working on her side?
So I think it's interesting too because like I think as a whole, we're still holding creators, big, small, or otherwise, to these older metrics without taking into consideration that consumers' behavior and how they interact with social has also changed a bit. You know, I think people are a bit overwhelmed by like the amount of content that's being thrown at them across all platforms. So while we're not seeing a lot of people liking things, I think likes are still something that can be accounted for. But for me, I think there's a lot of weight to be said around views. How long are people viewing? How much of your content are they willing to like sit and watch, especially with attention spans waning? Like, are they willing to watch, you know, something longer than a minute 30, like that kind of thing. So not just amount around the number of views, like yes, virality, okay, millions or whatever. But I think the real impact is like how long can you hold your audience attention for? I think the other part of it too is really around saves and shares. Because though people are not liking a lot of content, just because I didn't like something doesn't mean I didn't interact with it or that I didn't actually like the content because I didn't physically hit like. For me, sometimes I will scroll through videos and everything like that, and I might not directly like it, but I've shared it with like 5 and 6 people at a time, you know, because I'm showing it with them like, oh my God, this is so funny, that kind of thing. So I think likes and shares are definitely a part of the metrics that I would count. Engagement rate, obviously, is another key point. You know, I think the thing too of like the partnerships is also like that back end, like how many people are actually seeing this thing and doing and taking action afterwards, you know. Those would be the key indicators for me.
And you're exactly right. I always think about things around engagement because engagement to me shows that someone is really tapped into what you're doing. And like you said, you know, you can see it on your feed, but you don't exactly click a like. You can see it, but you can share or save it. Saves are another thing I pay a lot of attention to when I'm looking at my metrics. How many people have saved this content? Another thing I look at too, Court, is how much content is inspired by the content that was created. So for example, if Cardi's creating a short form video, whether it's on her TikTok or her Instagram, how many people took that, stitched it, or did like a thought piece about it or whatever? Where is that additional impact that may be living outside of her channels that her team could be paying attention to? Something else I pay attention to too is when you're on site with people in terms of, you know, engagement with your audience, you know, how much traffic, foot traffic is coming through? Like, what are we doing any clicks with that? How many people are walking by, stopping to talk? Because you can count those metrics of saying, okay, we had 600 plus people come by in a matter of 2 hours. That converted to this amount of sales, X, Y, and Z. And then the final thing I'll pay attention to is the website. People forget websites are still relevant. They're still important. How much of that traffic is being driven and where are those channels coming from? So do you have track links that are showing based on the metrics? Is your traffic coming from social media? Is it coming from your newsletter? Or is it coming from like a third party, which could be that other content created from other people's channels?
And also missed opportunity on ways to like collect your audience's data as well. And getting their information so that now you have them locked in and you can continuously update them on upcoming, you know, projects or events, etc. You know, maybe it, and again, we talk about like third spaces, like that information is also then important too if you wanted to build like a specific like hub or whatever, or like a private chat type of situation where people can feel more connected to you as an artist or whatever and feel like they can like message you. Like SMS is still very much a thing, you know, and artists are using them to like update people and you're like the first to know about projects or get like a special link for a discount. Like you really got to make sure that you're thinking about all of your buckets and making sure that you're really thinking from like a 360 perspective to like close that loop.
Yes. And when we're looking at the next step for the Cardi B rollout, so we have the album now.
Yeah.
Now she's getting ready to go on tour. in the first Q1 of 2026. If you look ahead in a year or two, Court, what part of this rollout do you think will have the most lasting effect on Cardi's brand as well as her public identity?
Oh man, that is a good question. I think it will be the tour. I think the execution of the tour. I think that's the thing. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, especially as a music artist, like, that can make or break your rollout in itself. Is the execution of the tour. Because you can have like the great visuals, album, all come together. Now you have people excited. Now you're going to be in their city. So people are expecting a certain level when they get there. And they also want to see how you're going to bring this vision to life and keep it entertaining. How are you going to make it fresh? Because again, they are hearing these songs over and over and over. If they're a diehard fan, like, they're listening to it on repeat. So what are those elements that you're bringing to it? And also, people are quick to let you know when a show isn't good. You know what I'm saying? So I think if done right, the execution is really what's going to put the bow. The execution of the tour is what's going to put the bow on top of it. That means visuals need to be A1. Costumes need to be A1. Sound. Hello? Everybody needs to be a sound check.
Okay.
We cannot be missing sound check. And also, like, my hope is, because she's pregnant. So my hope is that her team is going to be realistic around her time and her energy. I know that there's a lot of excitement. So you're thinking, I gotta get it. Yes. But let's also be mindful of, like, your workload, your body, the reality of being pregnant and growing a whole other person. Like, because then what could happen is you over-promising and under-delivering. And then I think that in itself would then completely impact the entire project as a whole. Like, if it's not done well, it won't matter that you had this beautiful body of work, because people are only going to remember, but the tour sucked, you know?
Yeah. I do think I agree with you on that. It has to be operationally in line. You know, I know I keep referring to Queen Bee herself, but Beyonce, when she had the twins, if you remember, she was supposed to headline Coachella that same year, but she decided to delay it because she was having the twins and came back the following year.
And came back swinging.
And let's talk about that real quick, because there's connective tissue with what I'm about to say, Court.
Come on.
Beyonce herself, when she was putting together Beychella, there was no doubt rehearsals, but those people knew those steps backwards and forwards, with and without music, all the things. And she was involved in every single detail of that performance and knew everything about that stage. But she was also realistic about the struggle in which it took for her to get back to that performance level, because she gave birth to twins, and how she herself was struggling mentally because she didn't feel the same anymore as a person. While being pushed through, she said she would never do that again because it was too much pressure on herself. Now, with Cardi B, aka the Bodega Baddie, I can see her potentially pulling this off, but I do think if she is due the beginning of the year, I do think she should push it back. I think 100%. She should push the tour back. I think 100%. She should be like B and have her tour kick off close to the summer. It'll give her body a little bit more time to recover, for her to adjust, and for her to tweak any things with the show. Yeah. I can also see her doing her Cowboy Carter bag of doing on-site activations at her tour. I can see her doing pop-up bodegas around each tour city, and having that be almost her merch shop. So work with me, Court. I'm building it out in my head. Come on. That could be almost her merch shop as a bodega. That's a pop-up with a limited edition merch where people can come in and shop at the store, and the checkout looks like a checkout at a bodega where you get like a chopped cheese or something like that. So you could do, like, curated food items, like Am I the Drama on like the front of it or something. I could see her doing that. I could also see her maybe doing like a surprise release of a new product, because Cardi has done brand collaborations, but she has not released any other products outside of those brand collabs. So I could see her testing that at these tours too. And then on the visual side of it, I could see her really leaning into big, loud visuals on like the digital screens, having Am I the Drama as like the screensaver in the back. And then her coming up where the Cardi cutout pieces, her coming up from the stage and like almost like a silhouette.
Yeah.
And then like the colors themselves changing as she's walking through,
I
because that
could
shows like the shift in
I
her
could almost see
personality.
her taking it even further. Cause like, again,
Okay,
like I'm
take it
thinking about
further. Take
I'm
it further.
thinking
What do you
about
see?
like layering it and not being so surface level with it. I could almost even see a world where, because again, we're taking into account she's pregnant, you know, what are some ways to like keep people interested while she like gives birth and like all of that. I could even see her doing something where she is like kind of like tag teaming with like iconic drama queens in a sense.
Okay.
And kind of like leaning into like that narrative with the whole "Am I the drama?" kind of like scope of things. Just like I could also even see a world where she does something a bit more like intimate and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that too, where it's like intimate performances and listenings and everything like that, like a girls' night type of thing. I don't know. I just see her really kind of like making this time work for her with where she's at. Because I think she's kind of like the same things I was mentioning, like her wanting to be mindful of like pregnancy schedule and everything like that. I think if she's a smart woman, smart marketer that we know her to be, she's already accounting for that. So I'm very interested to see like what she's going to do in the space to like combat those things.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see how she's going to lean into the visuals from Am I the Drama to have that translate into what her fans are going to wear for the tour. Because, again, I keep going back to Queen Bee. Queen Bee had us out there in cowboy hats, sparkly boots, silver, because she wanted us to be part of her visual. So is Cardi going to go with the same formula with Am I the Drama? Like, what is she going to do to bring that connective tissue into her audience? So I know we had a long chat today. We could have talked about a lot more when it came to Cardi. There's a lot more we can study. There's a lot more we can say. But I really appreciate you, Court, for joining me today. I hit you up. What was that, Court, on Wednesday? I was like,
yeah,
you want to join me on the episode today?
I was like, girl, yeah.
And the fact that people, if you know Court the way I know Court, she is a brilliant marketer who brings a authenticity to the conversation, especially as a Black woman in this industry. There's not enough of us who are able to really connect with each other on such a real level. And Kourtney has always been one of those people who's down for whatever's when it comes to, you know, talking about all the things.
Yeah.
So thank you, Court. I appreciate you, girl.
I love you, girl. You know, it's always a great kiki when we get together. It's always a great time. It's always fresh perspectives. Well, a little tinge of shade. Just
a sprinkle. Coffee with Yvonne is produced and edited by Yvonne Pearson. Coffee with Yvonne is created by Pink Dollhouse Marketing. You can catch the latest episodes by subscribing to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.